Whelan Presley and Van Ho Funeral Homes have been serving Quad City families and veterans for over 100 years. Whelan Presley is located in Rock Island, Milan, Reynolds, and Van Ho in East Moline, proudly supporting WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.
Moline picks a company that is preparing a blueprint of what's to come to the heart of the city. Another chapter in Moline's development in the cities. August ended with a bang in downtown Moline as the last of the Interstate 74 bridge span was demolished in a flash, an explosion, and the tumbling down of tons of steel. Moline has been preparing for this day since plans for the new Interstate 74 bridge was initiated more than a decade ago. And for months, a Washington, D.C.-based group called Urban Land Institute has been working with the city and the nonprofit Renew Moline Development Group to create ideas for the core of Moline and the 13 acres of downtown that's now freed up by the demolition of the old bridge. The latest step is the hiring of an architectural and landscaping firm, MKSK, to develop a plan. And Alexander Elias, president and CEO of Renew Moline, joined us to discuss these latest moves. So the city has selected MKSK, Architects Landscape, to lead the downtown development plan. Why do you like this group?
I like them from their experience. I like them from their approach and their vision and their commitment to community engagement, which is something that's really important in Moline.
Now, we've been talking about the redesign, the reimagining of downtown Moline for years now. You've talked about it far more than I have, of course. Tell me where we are in the process. What does this selection mean? Is this like you're coming close to actual completion? Like this is that last phase?
One of the challenges of this type of work is how long it takes to do these things. So when I got to Renew Moline 5 years ago, the first thing I did, being a city planner by training, is I picked up the adopted plans for downtown, and I looked to see.
Let's be honest, there have been plan after plan.
There have been a number of, and they're very good. I think the thing that was missing out of those plans is that they recognize the bridge is going to be there, but they don't talk very much about what that's going to do to the downtown environment in terms of street circulation. You know, now Fifth Avenue, which used to go through, doesn't go through anymore.
Right.
So there were a lot of changes that happened. And I think this contract with MKSK will really lead to some of those fine details, and particularly that riverfront site. So the area north of River Drive between the city's water department and the new bridge, which currently encompasses the old Kone Tower and the Bridgepoint property, will have a vision specifically for that area. But there's a lot else going on in that geography. So there are private development sites. There's a big one right across the street. So they really have their work cut out for them in terms of setting the stage for a redesigned entry into Moline, which is a very unique opportunity.
We've heard so much about Urban Land Institute and what they had come in. A former mayor of Pittsburgh who loves rivers because of the three rivers that come into Pittsburgh. He had great ideas for the downtown area. How does this marry into that? I mean, if you already had Urban Land Institute, why do you need MKSK?
So the Urban Land Institute was more of a big ideas. They gather experts on an advisory panel, which is what we contracted with them for, to just come in and give a group, a city, things to think about, big ideas. And they did that. They did that by envisioning a skate park, a very active riverfront in a different way than had ever been before. And they told us some things that we didn't know or we weren't fully thinking about. For example, that we had River Drive, which was an active corridor. We have Fifth Avenue that's an active corridor, but we don't have anything really to connect them. And so they encouraged us to think a lot more about residential development. And so in that way, it was kind of a swoop in, give us some ideas, and then move on. So
correct me if I'm wrong, a number of things that they also said was empty storefronts, but also way too much concrete and asphalt downtown.
Yes. After their visit, we looked at a map and calculated that I believe there are 48 acres of surface parking in downtown Moline, which is a lot, and certainly overparked if you just look at it that way. But our work with them was very beneficial, and as you probably know, the skate park is in design right now. They've had a number of community sessions, and the schematic design for that is well underway. So some of those ideas did end up taking off, but I think through that process, we also realized that we need somebody to help us think through what does it actually look like, because we have, you know, sort of those skate parks over here and some other ideas here and there, but really helping us think through what does the rest of it look like, and what are those private and public relationships to create physical space looking like. And one of the things that MKSK talked about in their interview was the importance of picking that first project after you get done with your plan, so the plan's not just sitting on a shelf. And then how do you marry that first project with an investment from the private side to really create something special. And so that area north of River Drive is obviously a big focus, but it's really looking at the whole area all the way to 7th Avenue on either side of the bridge, because we spend a lot of time thinking about how we don't want the bridge to bifurcate downtown. We treat east and west. We look at both sides. We look at the connections. We look at who's doing what on both sides.
Well, there has been the argument of, or at least the suggestion, to tie in downtown with Ben Butterworth all the way to Western Illinois University to make that all one kind of a concept. Is that still the plan?
The acquisition of the Bridgepoint property certainly helps that. That was one of the big missing pieces. And yes, that is absolutely.
So tell me about that. The Bridgepoint project, which most people would understand is the Kone Tower, but the huge building underneath it, which maybe a lot of people don't realize is there. You bought it. What you going to do with it?
So the city bought it. I think one of the main things that MKSK will be asking their team is, you know, should that building remain? What portion of that building should remain? What are potential uses for it? What's the economic feasibility? So when MKSK starts their work here, they have a team of their own experts, and so different firms. So they have an architecture firm. They have a firm called Development Strategies that is going to be looking at our market, both for just, you know, what is our occupancy of downtown, where are our opportunities for growth, and what is the market that's going to contribute to that. And then they have a flood protection engineer, and all of those people will come together to sort of evaluate and advise the city on what's the best reuse of that potential, you know, redevelopment area, the building itself. And then obviously, what does the community think? So that'll be what MKSK is doing.
Yeah, the Kone Tower is an iconic structure.
It is.
But it has perhaps limited usefulness in so many different ways, except perhaps as a public, a visitors bureau, something that people come to see. Is that kind of what's in the view is to somehow try to save the Kone Tower only because it's iconic?
We hear that a lot, and as Administrator Bob Vitas said, you know, it may not be the Eiffel Tower, but it's our tower. And I think there is definitely a community sentiment there that people are fond of it. It's, you know, I remember as a kid seeing the Christmas tree go up on top, and certainly the view from there. I've been up once when I first got to Renew.
I got to do it once as well.
It's very special.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps one of the questions that the city will want to ask MKSK is what is the feasibility of trying to make that into a public space and a public amenity? It certainly would be a regional draw. And I think that's one of the things that we look for in, you know, assessing redevelopment potential is, you know, what's really special and what's going to be putting the Quad Cities on the map, putting Moline on the map. And that's certainly one.
And I think that is interesting that you do say that, because you take a look at that as an iconic building, and that you could almost use that as a beacon for downtown, as opposed to a zip line. And I'm always going to bring that back up. is the argument that you would have a zip line, I believe it was from Kone Tower, and that would have been a huge public thing. But that's what seems to always happen when you have these outside firms that come in, because they want to find that one thing that'll make Moline more unique than anything else. Yeah. And then people just kind of look at it and go, yeah, no. Is that something that MKSK is going to do?
when we worked with the Urban Land Institute, they were not constrained to certain types of ideas,
Right.
or we just said,
Nor
you
should
know,
they in some ways.
Yeah. MKSK is different because we are expecting them to engage the community in a meaningful way and then really explore with the mayor and council from a policy standpoint, how far are you willing to go? And the zip line was more illustrative, I suppose, of like how do you get people there? Well, a splash.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, good point. Not a splat,
Right,
but a
right.
splash, all right.
But I think the, MKSK will approach this with a much higher dose of, say, reality associated with it. And they will also, one of the key things that they will do is help the city think through the financing of public improvements in that area.
And we're talking public-private. I think that's really important as well.
Yes.
Because this does not succeed without a great deal of investment by the private entities.
That's true. So we think about the area north of River Drive, really between River Drive and the river, as, I don't want to say primarily public, but that's your opportunity to create a public, meaningful space that is really a driver for the community. It's a gift to the community. It's for everyone.
It's river and slough access that you haven't really had before.
Yes, and we are different from the other side of the river in that we have that intimate space that is the slough where the rowing happens. That Sylvan Island is sort of at one end. And one of ULI's ideas was to encourage us to think about how to really activate that, but in the water. So, but there are other private opportunities that are south of River Drive. So if you're coming across the bridge and you get off on River Drive in Moline, when you get to the end of the road and there's the traffic light, Spiegel's on your right, and right in front of you is a 3.8 acre private development site, which is a huge opportunity. And one of the other things MKSK will be doing is to help us and John Deere, who will own a large portion of that property, think through what is the vision for that area. What's the timing on that vision? What's the market that'll contribute to getting a developer there or developers there? And what are the things that the city needs to do to make that attractive to developers?
One of the things that's not so attractive right now is the Spiegel building, of course. And I remember it was a number of years, maybe 5 years ago, that it was in private hands. And the thought process was that it was going to be apartment and mixed use. Now, I know one of the ideas that Renew Moline is looking at is perhaps making it almost a culinary center, a place where restaurant entrepreneurs can learn their trade or try new things. And it would be almost a mecca for foodies as well as other people. How likely is that?
I don't know if I can speak to likelihood yet because we haven't gone that far into kind of the potential implementation, but it is a concept that's, if people want to scroll through it on our website, if you go to renewmoline.com, it's the first thing you see. And as you and I were talking a moment ago, it's, it's one idea of many. It is one that I think has some basis in what's happening in Rock Island County and the Illinois Quad Cities. We don't have growth overall in population, but where we do have growth is in our immigrant communities. And each one of those immigrants from all the different places that they're from, I mean, we have a world food culture here that isn't really shown anywhere. And we really think that the Spiegel building and the concept of it being associated with food and we call it building as ecosystem around food, having potentially a food hall for prepared foods on the ground floor, a commercial kitchen. We know that there's a need for a commercial kitchen for folks that, say, sell their wares at Mercado to come cook at. So we do have a shortage of commercial kitchen. And then there are other opportunities for hydroponic growing, for other offices. Certainly that would be an area, if you've been to any food halls, there's always a lot more than just the food hall that's going on. So programming that building to have a lot more things going on, potentially having classroom space, working with Black Hawk College in Western Illinois on, sort of culinary or food sanitation programs or something. Those are all ideas that are sort of in the works. We do get ideas from people just by email or through our website, and so we always encourage people, just if you have an idea, send it. I mean, there's no crazy idea.
How important now is passenger rail to downtown Moline? I mean, it's almost like a carrot on a stick. It's been moving on you too. It's like, oh, it's coming, maybe it's not, and it's been delayed and delayed and delayed. And yet the Sears building was renovated, the hotel moved in, but it just kind of sits there without that passenger rail.
You had to ask.
I had to ask.
So I don't have any specific information about the project or its current standing, but I will tell you that we're doing fine without it. I think.
Which was always kind of the plan, worst case scenario. That was your worst case scenario.
Yeah, so the space that's physically there that is used from time to time for special events. We have the Poor Brothers, which has been a wonderful addition. They have regular events. They have
They're making the most of the space.
They really are, and they do a wide variety of things for the community in different ways, and reach out through artist programming and other kind of special events. And so that's been great to work with them. So I think, however many years it will take to get the train here, when it comes, it will be met with a great variety of things to do and a great variety of people who are happy to have it.
We've been talking a lot about north of River Drive because of the slough and the river. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 12 or 13 acres of undeveloped land because of the bridge, the old bridge being removed. And the fact that there is existing infrastructure there, which makes it so unique for a community. What is the grand design? Because like you said, linking 5th and River Drive is a major feature of any plan that you'll have.
I don't know what the vision is. We'll talk to the community. MKSK will do their magic.
But it is a mixture of what? Private?
Yes.
Public?
Absolutely.
And parkland?
Yes. All of those things. So we will
wait and see.
Well, it is a little bit of a wait
Sure,
and
absolutely.
see. Like we don't, someone asked me the other day, whether this is just sort of cookie cutter and you go through the motions
That's
of.
the fear, yeah.
But I can tell you that in my, 30-year career doing this type of work, I have seen many projects, change course, not drastically, but an idea that germinated from the community ended up being a real part of a project. And I think the skate park is a great example of that. When we did a survey, generally speaking, on what people thought of a skate park, it went viral. And, well, I shouldn't say it went viral, but we got 400 and some responses to a survey, and 98% of them were very positive on a skate park. And we have certainly seen that idea taking off. I think it's a well-liked idea. And so I think without the community engagement piece of it, I don't think we'd be nearly as far along as we are on that.
You said that MKSK is going to have to come up with, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you almost have to have a starting point. You have to have one project that gets started. That way the community sees something's going on, and then you sprout from there. Did I understand you right? Is that really what's important? Is that, like you said, you don't want it to be a binder that's sitting on someone's shelf collecting dust. You need that first moderate splash of an event.
Yes, and a lot of different planning firms and architecture firms can put a nice drawing together, certainly.
I love drawings. But
our success will come when a shovel goes in the ground. So we chose them in large part because they talked about right-sizing that first project. So are you going to do all 13 acres as, very highly envisioned public space with lots of kiosks and things? Probably not. But marrying that first investment by the public side of things, so the city, with the private side. So when the private development comes in, it will know that it's getting this wonderful public space that's, right next to it or in a very short distance away. And so their conversation with us during their interview about how those two things work together to not just give you a plan. So in my ideal situation, when we get to the council next September-ish, sort of collective we of the community, Renew Moline and the city, come to the council with a plan and all the work that's been done to that point. In a perfect world, I think we would also have, and here's your first project, and here's what it delivers for you, and here's how you collectively can pay for it with the private investment and the public dollars, which have to work together. I think that's the thing we've learned in the last 35 years downtown. They have to work together.
Yeah. You kind of look at a checklist, you go, okay, hotels, access, the Wyndham, check.
Yes.
The Element,
Yes.
you have these things. Businesses that are located downtown, attractions like the John Deere Pavilion. There's a lot of things you can check off saying, yeah, we've got that. What still has to be checked off? I mean, obviously more housing, because there's what we've learned is, as far as downtowns are concerned, there's almost never enough housing. And I think the magnet of a draw, because I think you've said in the past, I don't want cars going down I-74 and they just keep going. You need that draw to bring in. What's the big check marks that still are needed in downtown Moline?
I think the big obvious one is really increasing our residential, both to get people's feet on the street, as I like to say. And then also one of the things we find is that other investment comes when you have more residential. So they would say—
Because that brings the vibrancy, the daily vibrancy.
But it also brings things like grocery stores, which need a certain critical mass, if you will, in terms of residential. And what we find in this line of work is that a lot of times the developers and private investment look not necessarily at the Quad Cities as a whole, but more on what's happening more in the neighborhoods and locally. And so that can be a challenge for us without a really strong residential component. And so we're going to be focused very much on the residential.
So the immediate timeline, as you said, is pretty much now until September of 2024,
Yes.
where a plan is going to be developed.
Yep. That's
A
true.
lot of input, a lot of public input. I know that that's really critical in this.
Yes, and so the firm that MKSK has brought on to help them do that is called Altogether. They've worked with the city in the past. They have a focus on doing fun, engaging events, and so they will show up in a little kind of pop-up scenario at Bass Street Landing or Mercado and have activities that engages kids. And
So expect that in the year ahead.
Yep, and we will. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And then a presentation next September.
A presentation next September. They also have a second series of engagement when they have a draft plan, because they don't want to just go to the council and go, okay, well, here it is.
This is it.
So early spring-ish, I guess, or early summer, sort of early May next year, there's a draft plan that comes out, and then, a few more things that will be happening surrounding the draft plan. So people will have many opportunities to see it. We hope they'll take them up on it. I know we ask the community to come out pretty regularly, but this is our front porch, and this is a once in a generation, so we're hoping they will.
Our thanks to Renew Moline President and Executive Director Alexandra Elias. The official start of fall, just days away, and we all know that means more than pumpkin spice. Laura Adams tells us there are a lot of great things to do and see if you want to go out and about.
This is Out and About for September 15th through 22nd. Check out the Riversons Festival of Fine Art at Lindsay Park on the 16th and 17th, or enjoy the Fall Belgian Fest at Moline's Stevens Park on the 17th. Plus, head on out to the Hello Fall Fest at Isabel Bloom on the 22nd. The Clinton Symphony Orchestra kicks off their season on the 23rd at Clinton High School at 7:30. While the Mississippi Valley Blues Festival takes place at LeClaire Park on the 15th from 4 to 11. September 16th is your chance to be a part of Taming of the Slough at the Bass Street Landing Boat Docks, while NAMI Walks kicks off at the Bend Expo Center on the 16th. Plus, the Atkinson Vintage Farm Equipment Show is being held in Atkinson, Illinois on the 16th. And on stage, the comedy The Outsiders begin their run at Circa 21. Weisenheimer Long-Form Improv brings the funny back to the Black Box Theater on the 15th, followed by auditions for Suddenly Last Summer and the Ho 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 Show on the 16th from 10 to noon. Playcrafters Barn Theater holds a 24-hour play festival on the 16th, and check out the music at the Railroad Park Gazebo in Silvis on the 20th, and Schwiebert Park is the site for the Thursday Night Groove on the 21st. For more information, visit wqpt.org.
Thank you, Laura. Mo Carter has been described as a multifaceted musician known for her bold, soulful voice and charismatic stage presence. Well, she brought both to the stage of the Black Box Theater in Moline to perform one of her originals. So here's Mo Carter with Crumbled.
Your brilliance in every way, a constant reminder, as it's always on display, thinking if I try harder, I could be simply sea and I crumble. So easy, oh, every time, not even trying, create a beautiful rhyme. If I had a sliver of what you possess, would it be easier for me to confess that I crumble? Oh, just like you knew I would, and I crumble. Oh, so silently, and I crumble. Oh, into the sea, and I crumble. I'm twisting at every turn, honey. Your shadow looks and I burn. With nothing left, I guess I'll accept that I'll continue to be nothing better. Only me, nothing better. Only me, oh, nothing better. Only me, oh, and I crumble. Oh, just like you knew I would, and I crumble. Oh, so foolishly, and I crumble. Oh, into the sea, and I
Mo Carter with Crumbled, performed at Moline's Black Box Theater. On the air, on the radio, on the web, on your mobile device, and streaming on your computer. Thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Whelan Presley and Van Ho Funeral Homes have been serving Quad City families and veterans for over 100 years. Whelan Presley is located in Rock Island, Milan, Reynolds, and Van Ho in East Moline, proudly supporting WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.